guys, it's Kwana back again with another review. Hope you guys are having a great week. All right, so this past week, a new Netflix limited series just dropped. It's entitled Anatomy of a Scandal. It stars Sienna Miller, also Naomi Scott. That's right, Princess Jasmine is up in here being a little scandalous. And it's produced by David E. Kelley. That's right, David E. Kelley of Big Little Lies and Big Sky, Ally McBeal, Boston Public, just tons of dramatic, suspenseful based shows. And it's also based on a novel. Now, I have not read the novel, but I'm kind of intrigued, so I might end up giving it a little look-see before we get to the final episode of the series. Now, that being said, all 6 episodes of this limited series have already released on Netflix, but I decided that I'm going to pace myself and only watch an episode or 2 a week. This is going to be really hard because a lot of shows just ended or are about to wrap up, but I'm going to pace myself and I'm going to tell you why I think you should do so as well. But before we go into Sienna Miller, and she plays Sophie Whitehouse. She is the wife of a parliamentary minister, a fairly young and handsome one at that, who confesses to her that he has committed the sin of adultery. That's right, he's had a major affair, and it makes her world crumble. And along the way, we're going to uncover even more scandalous behavior behind this man's past and whether or not she's going to make the decision to stay with her husband and support him, or whether or not this scandal is going to destroy their lives altogether. It's also very reminiscent in tone to The Undoing, which you will recall that I reviewed on this channel. And if you haven't seen that review, I'm going to pin that review over here in the top corner. And the show's first episode has gone swimmingly. The pacing of this first episode was so well done. The time went by so fast. I think the runtime is about 48 to 53 minutes. It felt like it went by super fast. I would have thought this was a 30-minute drama. So it was so very well paced. It employs a lot of flashbacks in the show, and you get the perspective of Sophie in the present day as she's finding out about her husband's affair, but also in the past as she recalls meeting and falling in love with her husband and kind of looking for the clues that were there maybe all along, even though she couldn't see it. We also have the character of Naomi Scott. Now, we haven't really been introduced to her much, but she is going to play the other woman in all of this, which is a little scandalous, being that one of the last major roles we saw her in, of course, yes, Charlie's Angels, but also Princess Jasmine. And so that's a little bit of an interesting turn for her. In fact, so much so that I didn't even recognize that it was Naomi Scott. So that was pretty intriguing to me. There's also Michelle Dockery, who's going to be playing Kate Woodcroft. Now, we've only seen snippets of her, but she's going to be playing the prosecution who's tasked with the legal ramifications of James Whitehouse's affair. And we also have Rupert Friend, who plays James Whitehouse, the man behind the affair. This show, the chemistry between the actors was really well done. You really believe that Sienna Miller is this scorned woman, and it got me so enraged. So many of her just going through the process of whether or not she's going to stay with her husband and be supportive in this lifestyle that they lead, like how much of this is done before the public eye. I really looked over my husband and I was like, you better not ever. And he knew right away as soon as I gave him that look, and he was like, I will never. So I thought the show was just really well done. Cinematography looked really good, really glossed and shiny and polished and put together. There was a couple of moments where there was a little bit of a shaky camera, and I wasn't really sure if that was a part of the show cinematography or if that was just an error. I'm leaning toward actually a part of the cinematography because there's some pretty interesting moments and some pretty interesting camera angles that are done throughout this first episode. There's a lot of fishbowl angles when they're going into flashbacks, or when there's things that are happening that kind of put James in a bubble where he's trying to think through his actions. We have moments where we're pivoting to his point of view going through this scandal, but then also mostly staying with Sophie. And I kind of look at her as being the protagonist of the show. So far, I think this first episode was really well done. It really puts me in the mindset of like some of my favorite shows: Big Little Lies, Nine Perfect Strangers, Pretty Little Liars. So if you love any of those types of shows where there's a scandal and there's a mystery surrounding it, I think that you will really love Anatomy of a Scandal. Now, again, I am not going to be talking about the ending of the show for at least a couple more videos. I'm going to probably clump some videos together. So what I'll probably do is a recap and a review for episodes 2 and 3, which will drop next week. And then I'll do the next few episodes together. But let me know down below in the comments if you've already watched the whole entire series. Don't spoil it for me. And if you liked the show, tell me if you liked it. Now, I have heard some mixed messages about the ending. I made people promise not to spoil it for me. But I will say, the first episode made me hopeful, but I do know that sometimes these shows can be a bit of a letdown. For example, I was a little let down with the ending of The Undoing. I felt like by the time they got to the end of it, the surprise twist really wasn't that much of a surprise, and it felt like they were kind of taking the lazy way out of it. It'll be interesting to see if this follows a very similar format or if it feels like it's doing something fresh and exciting. I will say this, from the standpoint of Netflix, I really think this is a show that it would behoove Netflix to release 1 week at a time. We're looking at so many other streaming sites, such as Disney Plus and HBO, that have weekly releases that provide those water cooler moments for people where they can stand around and talk about what's happening in a show. They can make predictions, they can produce theories, and Netflix really isn't doing much of that right now. And I think it's, you know, the one exception of that, they've done that with some of their reality-based TV shows, but they haven't done it with a lot of their series. And I think that that's something that maybe they should consider. I know that there's going to kind of be a little bit of a gap in Stranger Things, where we're going to have like a part 1 and part 2. They definitely probably could do that with the series You. So it's really going to be interesting to see if Netflix continues with this binge only platform with their series, or if they decide to move forward and maybe produce some moments for us where we can actually hype up and build around the theory and build community around these shows. So let me know what you think about that idea in the comments as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Toodles.